in Eritrea, and as far as I'm concerned about like mental health, when it's like,
hey mum,
it's just you're ill. Like, and they're like, but my son's not ill.
It doesn't translate in every single culture. It's really...
It was just like, I accept them as humans, not just as my parents,
right?
But them as humans, knowing what they've gone through and knowing the mindset that they.
I don't know what it's like for women when you're growing up, but for us, if you're crying, you're a pussy. Like, facts, like, why are you crying for, bro? You're a big man, you know, don't cry, like, and it's like, maybe that's affected me now, at this age now, because man can't shed a tear. For anything, really.
Yeah.
Like, proper, like, so... I don't know. When it comes to school, I think it's really important to push that, but they're also being raised at home, right? So
just get them young. This is what it is.
100%. But this is by the way, tune in for the next episode, which is going to be about education. Don't know. But so this is again something that I wanted to touch upon, which is I was going to go to therapy, but we can go to therapy afterwards. Education, yeah? School. And like what can be done on a school level? I can't lie, there's a school teacher behind me. I could drag him in right now, do a quick substitution. But what are you saying? Substitution, but real quick. Quick. I did my knee in, you know, like quick thing. Come, you can quick. Sure.
I'll chime in if anything comes to mind from here.
Okay, no problem. But no, like I feel like there has to be certain procedures have to be in place. Like I've worked in a school, and you know, they're great safeguarding stuff when it comes to like the creme de la creme of terrible stuff. Like they got that on lock. Let me not lie. Yeah. But that's not the worst. Yeah, like that's like saying, oh yeah, we've got police for murder. Like that's like you've got somebody to deal with the worst of the worst, but the worst of the worst is there, but there's somebody here who's actually like, it's brimming, it's stewing up, like, and that needs to be fixed at that point. So what can we do? Not necessarily us, but like as a community, what can we do to fix?
We can't. You know, no, but do you know why I say we can't? I say we can't because the same way I was saying, my PhD is looking into physical activity and the idea that we really want to push kids being active. And it not just being about sport, it's about enjoyment, because when people get to like secondary school age, everybody hates
PE. I like to PE at school.
I like to do because they assume that PE is any form of physical activity, but that's something they've been taught, and then that's also something the teachers have been taught. So my point we're going with this is we're trying to teach the teachers.
Yes.
Right.
And so this is something that needs to be changed in terms of like when you are teaching teachers, are you teaching them about mental health?
100%.
Right.
When you're because we as people, there's only so much we can do. Like I'm not the one at uni educating a teacher. Even when I did my personal training, you'd assume that mental health would be a part of personal training because of exercise, physical activity, mental health, all of that. There was nothing in there. Do you get what I mean? So that is so much more than
the
what
culture
we can do. It's very much
of
government
education that needs to massively change,
because
it needs to massively change how we train teachers, because they are dealing with a lot more than teaching 30 kids every 45 minutes to an hour. They are dealing with, you know, oh, miss, this person called me a bitch, this person, like, I'm being bullied, or, you know, this happened at home. Like, every teacher with a good relationship with their kids is going through a lot more than just teaching them whatever subjects they learn at uni.
Right.
Yeah.
And it needs to be a case of, okay, I've built a relationship with this child. This young person now also, you know, sees me as an authority figure and like a mum or father figure, but really that's what they are, because they spend almost as much time as they spend at home, they spend at school.
Right.
Yeah.
And they are expected to be in school from the ages of 3 to 18.
Yes.
So they're spending hella time with these teachers. Why should teachers not then be trained in some sort of mental health?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Honestly, whether it's psychoeducation about, drugs or, bullying or literally puberty and like sexual discovery, like whatever, all the things that kids go through as they're growing up, which is loads.
And not just these, I mean, you worked in a school with me, so not just these like 1 hour
not 1 hour session safeguarding.
Yeah.
None of that.
That's what I'm saying by like it's so much more than like what we can do. Like things there are resources that are being provided, but realistically this needs to hit home for government. Like this needs to hit home for institutions to be like, if you're working with children, I don't understand why you don't know enough about mental health.
Right.
I don't expect you to be an expert, but I expect you to know enough to know signs. I expect you to know enough to know when to intervene with a child.
Right.
I expect you to know what to do when you're intervening. You don't need to be a therapist, but you as a teacher need to know where you're sending that child.
Right.
Like you need to know what A, B, and C the plans are in case something happens. And that's not happening. So it's like there's a huge crisis.
Oh,
and then teachers have no idea what to do.
Right.
Parents have no idea what to do.
And
then these
up...
kids are just being left to just
simmer and deal with it themselves.
Honestly,
yeah.
I worked in inpatient. There was a girl who, I don't know if I might talk, there was a girl who was just but she was completely missed by like her school. She was a twin. They were missed. Both of them were really, really needed like serious help, like crisis, and the school had missed them. They were new to like CAMS, and I was just like, how has this all been missed? Yeah. They'd missed the signs, and the signs weren't just clear, they were visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they were visible signs, and there was nothing that the school could provide like information for.
Yeah. And I think also another aspect of it would be because this is again, this isn't us like bad mouthing teachers or anything to a sort. Like it's not essentially their fault. It's the fault of
they're not equipped.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's like, from my personal experience working in the school as well, it's like there is a lack of support for the teachers
100%.
as well. So it's like, as much as like working in a school, man, like I can tell you now that the emotional investment that you must put in, there isn't a level, right? There isn't, you have been thrown into an ocean to figure out how deep it is. How much emotion can you give to a child? How much can you invest, right? And me personally, the reason why I left was because I invested way too much, right? Killed myself.
Yeah.
Right? Mentally, physically, emotionally. And not only was I ill-equipped to handle the child's emotional needs, I was also then left ill-equipped to handle my own emotional shit. So it's like, not only do the teachers need to be educated, but they also need to be given the correct support. But hey, man,
I'm very passionate about this particular topic, like massively passionate about this topic.
Like, therapists are assigned therapists.
And I truly believe, and I mean, the school that I used to work in had an amazing counsellor. She was amazing. Shout out you. I know you're watching. And it got to the point where we were going to see her.
Yeah.
Like, the shit that we had dealt with had got to a point where but her job isn't to
deal with you.
This is out of the goodness of her heart. Like, this isn't her job. Her job is 12 to 18-year-olds in the school, not people who are 25, 30, 32, 40, whatever. Like, do you get it? Like, it's crazy. And I can imagine, I can tell you right now, like, the feelings inside, like, amongst us staff members when we were, like, especially particularly this lockdown, like the first lockdown when it happened, right?
Lockdown's hard.
It's difficult, 100%. Lockdown has thrown us into a whole different thing. But the school thing, man, I just like, how is it in America?
I was going to touch on that. So the support system that the teachers over here have is completely different to over in the States. For example, in my high school, I was dealing with a couple kids that were not off the rails, but they were coming and confiding me in like very serious matters, and I didn't know how to deal with it because I was new to that. I was like, why is this kid trusting me with so much crazy stuff? Like, I wouldn't do that to a teacher. If something that mad that he was telling me was happening, I wouldn't go to my like sport teacher and be like, hey sir, blah blah blah. I'll be like, yo, are you okay? So it's like, that being said, when I got told the stuff, I was in no position to give him any advice. I had to go to my head, like the head teacher, and tell him. I was like, yo, this guy keeps coming to me and telling me some stuff, and it's messing me up because I don't know what he's going through. I'm trying to put myself in his shoes and think, what can I do? And the first thing he told me was, we've got this support system that I can go talk to. So in America, certain schools have counselors for teachers. And I'd sit down like how we're doing, and she'll be like, so what's going on? And I'll open up to her about him, and she'll give me the advice that kind of reassure me what I could say back to the kid, relay to the kid. And I was like, okay, this is kind of working, because now I feel comfortable if that boy kept coming to me, and I'll be like, I can sit him down and be like, okay, you know what? We're going to do this, we're going to do that. If this doesn't work, come back and we'll try XOXO. But it's the support system over in the States where the teachers are getting taught. So it's like, I was one of the teachers. There was millions of other teachers that could go see these people to get help. And it's like, I don't think that happens over here. As you said, the teachers don't have any support over here. It's like, you're new to this.
I asked him this yesterday.
Not formally.
Teachers are new to this, and it's like, what can they do?
Yeah.
It's like they're learning on the job.
Yeah.
And I know it's life. You learn as you're going on. And sitting with you guys, I haven't said a lot because I'm learning. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you two are like giving me so much info. And I'm just like, why can't that be everywhere? Like, why can't schools invest? I know it's more money, but at the same time, like, the mental awareness.
There's no funding.
Oh.
There's no funding.
There's no funding. That doesn't tick boxes for Ofsted.
If there's no funding.
No, but it's starting to. They need it soon.
Go on.
Sorry.
So it's not. Okay, the no funding over here is obviously a lot different to over in the States. Like, the school I'm in looks like Man City own it. It's unbelievable amount of money they pump into the school, and it's like they can afford to have these qualified people come in and help us to help the kids. And it's like, why can't in England they do the same thing? And okay, I don't know what Ofsted do or whatever, but it's like they need some sort of support bubble to help the vulnerable. And it's like, if they're not going to help the teachers, how do the teacher expect to help the kids if they're going through it at the same time as them? So it's like, I love America. I also love here, but there's certain things in the States that I would happily implement over here because it works.
Yeah,
it works over there, and it's sad to see that you guys are talking about how there's no support for you guys, what you guys have gone through, like, and it's like, who do we talk to now,
right,
to implement that over here? And it's like, I don't know.
So I think they are trying to, and so the role that I presently work in is literally that, to try and get support into education for teachers, parents, and for young people. It's actually a really, really enlightening role. I really like it. It's really, it's low intensity, but it's quite nice.
Yeah.
So we can talk about how the NHS is underfunded, because we kind of need the NHS for this, or we do need the NHS for this. And it is about, in particular, mental health in schools teams in the NHS who go out to schools in their council, in the borough, and go and work with these groups in the community. And it is great, but it's new.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I was just going to say, it literally sounds as if, like, only those with money are allowed to have good well-being.
Yeah.
It literally sounds like if you don't have money, then your well-being doesn't matter.
Right.
And honestly, really and truly, like, the school system is just all about ticking box. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble.
No, the exam factors.
All it's about is ticking boxes and the school sounding like it's great with loads of A stars, A's and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in there that matters of how the child is dealing with it, how, like, the child's mental health, the teacher's mental health.
Have you ever read an Ofsted report?
No, I don't even want to.
So I've had to glimpse over one recently. They are all part of it.
As in,
Teachers' well-being and kids' well-being.
Yeah. That is the thing.
That is part of it. I don't know how. It's not massively known.
I've been dead honest on my Ofsted.
Because it is they do ask about teachers' well-being.
Bruv, if they care, do you think it's still be doing this?
It doesn't make sense.
You can ask the question, you just don't have to look at the answer. They can ask the question so it looks like to us.
Maybe we'll just say needs improvement.
Yeah, they can ask the question, but evidently they're not. They're evidently not doing anything. Well, they're starting to, but it's taken all this time.
It needs to be a lot
in
more.
order for it to.
Because I didn't think about teachers' well-being for a long time, because there's always staff drinks and whatever, but I've worked in a hospital, and actually speaking to a supervisor is so important. So the Ofsted equivalent in hospitals is, I can't remember it now, it's off on the tip of my tongue, but they have those in hospitals as well, in clinical environments, and this is all things that they do too. So what they have to do in hospitals, you are meant to see a supervisor. I think it's monthly. You are meant to go to, you have a supervisor and then a clinical supervisor.
Yeah.
So your supervisor will be your line manager, and they'll talk to you about, what you want to do, how things are going, generally your well-being. And then you can go to a clinical supervisor who you can literally cry to.
Yeah.
And there are open spaces as well. So once a week too, so where I worked, there was reflection. These reflective spaces where you talk about how we have worked as a team, how the kids have impacted you, how you have felt. So literally talk about what's made you angry and someone who's made you happy. It's really, really nice. It's kind of when you worked in school, an even better riff, what went well, what was good and what wasn't so good. Right. And this is weekly. And then monthly, talk to your supervisor. And then if you really need to, your clinical supervisor, about everything that's happening in your life.
That should be there in schools.
That needs to be in schools. It should be massively mandatory. And there is, the thing is with that, it's just that has nothing to do with funding. Yeah. That's now teachers taking that time to be yes, I am a main teacher, or I'm a head teacher, or I'm a deputy head. Let me talk to other members of the team. It needs to be a private time. Just to catch up. No, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a clinical space. It can just be how is teaching? How are the kids? How are you? How much do you need to be qualified to genuinely ask someone for half an hour how they are doing? Because that in itself,
yes,
is more than nothing.
I agree to an extent, but it's what if your queries are more than what they can, we've said, what if it's more than what they can do?
Would you really go to someone in school if it was more?
Well, this is my point. I feel you do need somebody in school.
No, it should be someone separate. That's what I'm trying to say. There should be someone mandatory.
A mandatory school therapist.
Yes.
Right.
So you can go to your manager or your supervisor, whatever the case may be, but that you also have that clinical person essentially in there who you can go and speak to about just in case. But it's it's nothing to do with funding.
Yeah.
Because they're finding funding for everything.
There's always funding.
There's always funding. It's nothing to do with funding. It's literally just to do with the fact that up until now, mental health has not been a priority.
Yeah.
And only now is it becoming a priority. But now when it's becoming a priority, it's I think everyone's overwhelmed because it's where do you start first? Do you start with the children? Do you start with the teachers? Start with the parents? Start the uni kids? Start the primary school kids? Where are we starting? Because it's just such a...
But I don't think it's a where do we start? I think you should just start at every avenue. If that makes sense.
I think they should as well, but they do that.
Because if you look, if we bust the teachers now, let's say we get the teachers the help that they need, right? Then the kids will be able to see that. The kids will also have, there are school counsellors, right? So the kids have counsellors. The parental thing is different because that parental thing would be then from as the kid gets older, they'll be able to do what you've said. So we basically made an action plan ourselves, essentially. To an extent.
So before that, where are we finding the counsellors? Because to get into counselling, to get into clinical psychology, the obstacle in that in itself is so huge. Hard. I don't think there's even enough therapists. Do you get what I mean?
Right.
So even before we're saying let's put therapists or let's put counsellors into the schools,
Mm.
where are we getting them from?
Well,
Because
then-
a lot of people have to pay. Like, a lot of people pay for their doctorates.
Right.
And not everybody can afford it.
So maybe this is the thing. Maybe
That's if they don't get
How
it, by
do
the
we
way.
provide for the people
No,
we need to provide for?
them. But like, I think where I'm trying to go with this is the same way they say like we need more plumbers, right? And they say, you know, apprenticeship this, and you know, you'll get paid while you're doing it, and you know, if we'll cover the fees and whatever. Like, I think that should be a thing where it comes from.
Institutional racism.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're talking about, like, okay, we're all black here.
Yeah.
So we're also talking about the fact that we need ethnically diverse people in these spaces.
For culturally competent
yeah, for
actual
yeah.
like work.
So like that's my point in being like, even before we get to the point of like, there just seems to be at every angle, because
I don't know, like, I mean, so the role that I'm in now, I applied for in November, and it's funny because one of the things that they were looking for was some sort of like someone for cultural diverse background.
oh yeah, same here.
So that's like, yeah.
Well, for my intention.
Yeah, they're just like, we need someone who's from like an ethnic background, or like specifically like we just need them to. That's where they're going to work, in that type of background, and it's just like, okay, they want someone of color. This is great. This is great. But now what? So like, even when they're educating,
sometimes
I don't know.
My
so,
one didn't, but I'm just seeing like my one, they were very nice. But I'm seeing so many places where now all of a sudden it's like, oh, like we want an ethnic person, oh, we want this, that, and the third. And sometimes I just feel like, are you doing it so you can just say
tick a
your
box.
team is ethnically
Right.
diverse, or do you actually care? Like, do you get what I mean? Like, is this just to tick the box? Because you can tick the box and have someone there, but are you giving them the power to make any change?
Right.
Are they
it's
just
really
there?
interesting when you look at. I think when I looked at the location, now that I know the location of where I'm working, it was necessary that I'm there. It wasn't just a tick box. But it's because my course it's a course, it's not just working. When we had the lecture on increasing access, so we're looking at how can we increase access to mental health for the black and ethnic minority community. Like, how do we reach that one? That whole conversation to me was kind of, it started off as being like, black people are they're underprivileged. And I was there and I was just like, okay, so where do we go from here? Because that's not talking about increasing access to mental health. And then it was everyone else who maybe wasn't black talking about experiences of being, I don't know, from a one-parent background home or growing up in a council estate. And I'm just like,
That's not being black. Or
this
Asian.
isn't what we're talking about in this
Yeah.
lecture. We're talking about increasing access. How can we make sure that ethnic minorities are getting mental health support is the question. Like, that's what we want to do.
And I think it's what you were both saying, and it's having more
Having more of us around.
But essentially, my point is we're getting hit at every angle. That's the point I'm trying to make here, okay? Because I agree with you 100%. Like, everything we've said here, 100%. But it's like, sometimes it feels like you're fighting a battle that's just like, are we even at the level that we can make changes? Because we're saying, well, we will make changes. But it's just, sometimes it can feel so defeating, because it's just like, we know this and we're saying this, but like...
And we have to work so hard to work with the people who don't look like us, who are at the top.
Right.
So
and our job is to educate them.
It's okay.
I don't even... My whole thing was to get a solution out of this, and I feel like we've got to a dead end. Like,
no, there is solutions. I think there are solutions when it comes to your family, friends, and your parents. I think there's solutions with that. I think what we've said about, like, if you're of an age where you can help educate your parents, but also work on yourself and be a bit selfish and protect yourself, those are solutions. But, like, in terms of therapy, like, you want to talk on therapy, for example, like, I think therapy is amazing, and I personally, for me, race hasn't been an issue. Like, I've had a white therapist, but she was great because we connected on other levels.
Yeah.
But
is that to do with, like, as in you're both women?
Yeah, and I think she'd recently graduated, so she really understood what I was going through with uni.
Right.
I just happened to connect with her. But prior to, so that was cognitive behavioural therapy, that's what I had. But prior to that, I went to counselling, and it was like a older white woman who was lovely, but I just didn't really connect with counselling myself. But we can sit here and we can say to people, go to therapy and this, that, and the third. But even with therapy, it's like there's cultural competence. There's some things that maybe us lot are understanding here, because we're all ethnic minority people, that like you can go to a white therapist and they may just completely dismiss because they don't understand that that's what's affected your mental health.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't know, man, it's kind of like at all levels, it's just sort of like institutional changes need to be made so that it's easier to get help, and also you can get help potentially, if you wanted, by someone who looks a bit more like you and may understand like your background a lot more.
Yeah, I get you.
I definitely recommend therapy.
Because I'm currently undertaking CBT, so CBT therapy, and I'm currently talking to an older white woman, and it's great, she's cool, but there's still some things that I talk to her about, and it's like she just doesn't get it. Like she really just doesn't get it, and I know she tries her best, and it's via Zoom as well, so it's like she's always smiling, and sometimes I'm chilling, I'm cool, but it's like if I could see myself through her eyes, I could see something's still not right, like something's still up, and it's like I don't know if it's because she's white, or I'm not saying because she's a woman, but it's like maybe if I had a black woman talking to me, she would understand the tone in which I'm saying things, and it's like. My mum also went through it, and it's like she had a guy and it was great. She loved it. Like I could see she had a kick in her step. Like she was excited to speak to this guy. And it's like, I don't know why she's got that kick and I haven't got this kick. It's like, I'm talking to her about some real life stuff, and it's like, she does what she has to do. She tells me things, and I like, cool, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that. But it's like, it's still not enough for me. And it's completely different as to when I'm talking to, like, for you or one of the other bros. It's like, I know you guys aren't qualified in this, but it's like, you guys listen, you guys try and give me beneficial, like, solutions into how I can feel better and how I can make minor changes, because I feel this time last year I'm completely different. Like, I'm a completely different person, and it's like, I kind of want to get back to that old Tobias, but she keeps telling me, like, that old Tobias is gone. There's only elevation. Like,
I had to accept that.
Yeah.
Very recently.
That's all. I've always said that to everyone. Like, if you had met me a year ago, you'll be like, oh my gosh, like, you seem so lit. And it's like, now I tell her I want to get back to that person, and she's like, that person's gone. You need to let go of that person. You have to focus on the person you are now. And that's what's hard for me. That's what I'm struggling with, because it's like, I don't want to deal with this me right now. Like, I want to go back to who I was a year ago. Yeah. And I've kind of learned that on myself. She's told me that, but it's like, she hasn't really told me that. I've told that to myself, and you guys have told me that, like, or you guys have said, bro, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, it will be better. But it's like, I feel for, like, the younger kids as well. Not just, like, 25 to 30-year-olds. The younger kids need someone like us.
Right.
Like, they need, not a father figure, but someone they feel they can trust.
Culturally competent.
And it's
Word of the day, phrase of the day.
Being in a high school, as I said prior to this, being in a predominantly white high school, in my team I only had one person of colour. And he would find it so hard to talk to the friends, talk to his, because they didn't get him. And it's like, that's what I feel is a lot, not, it's wrong, because it's like, I feel you should be able to talk to everyone.
Right.
But being in a space where you're the only person of colour and you feel if you tell them something you're going to get judged, that makes it a lot harder. That puts a weight on your chest, and it's like, that weight on your chest develops into negative thoughts, and negative thoughts develop into seriously negative thoughts. That might not mean the right word, but I feel we need more people of colour in positions where we can benefit the younger generation. Because I think it's domino effects. Like for the teachers, if we get help, we then help the kids, and the kids will then not help the parents, but the change will be seen by their parents. So it's like we help them, they help, we help them, they help the parents, and the parents see, okay, I need to change, kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Just to add that, parents and teachers, parents not look up to teachers, but parents like take a lot from what teachers say. Teachers can have a very serious influence on parents, like very serious influence. So I feel like if you were to get at the teachers and get them into like a very good place, like they potentially could have that domino effect, like you said, like on the parents and on the children. Yeah. Which is why, I'm just gonna put it out there, I think, like I really push for like people exploring the avenue of going into like all these type of fields. I feel like these aren't fields that we normally think to go into. Like I never considered doing a PhD. I didn't even know what it was years ago. I only recently really found out, like in the past like 2-3 years. But had I had someone tell me about it years ago, maybe I would have really like wanted to. So I'm really hoping like having conversations like this and like just generally the way things are going, that more and more people apply for things like being therapists, counsellors, but all other aspects as well. You don't have to be a therapist or a counsellor. There's like 50 million jobs you can have in the field of mental health. Yeah. But more of us need to be there in order like be the change you want, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah.
I would love that.
Amazing.
Be the change you want.
Was there anything else you guys wanted to discuss in particular, specific? That was
So I was just gonna say, sorry, how do I word it? You know, because a lot of us have parents who've gone through so much, sometimes it feels like our struggles aren't that much compared to people who've gone through a lot. Your struggles are just as much. It doesn't matter if you are at one like severe spectrum or you're at like a mild end. It really doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of your mental health. If you're struggling, you're struggling. And
can't quantify trauma.
That's it. Like your struggle and my struggle, everyone's struggle means just as like equal. Do you get what I mean? It's not one over the other, and I feel like that's something that a lot of us like have really had to grasp and understand, that like, okay, cool, like our parents have come from war and this, that and the third, but my feelings are also valid, like my mental health is also valid. And so like seek help. Don't ever feel like because they've gone through something that's so bad that like you can't now tell them you're struggling, or you can't get help because it's not as bad as theirs. Or if you have a friend that severely like had clinical depression, for example, but your depression may be a bit more like the mild to moderate, it doesn't mean your depression's any less than theirs, because it's affecting you, and if it affects you then it matters. So it's like really understanding that like just because you're not what the media is portraying mental health to be, like the very extreme ends, doesn't mean that your mental health doesn't matter. Like you can function and still have ill mental health, if that makes sense. Just want to put that one out there.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, you articulated what I had in my head, so thank you.
Yeah, man. So as we've come to the end of this, I feel like we've touched upon a lot of points, and I feel like we've got to certain, you know, we've tackled some difficult conversations, and I guess, you know, what Fiore said about, you know, don't quantify. Trauma is not quantifiable. Like if you're struggling, you're struggling, and if you feel like you can't talk to your parents, there are people you can talk to. I will definitely put some stuff in the bio below about people you can contact within the UK, I guess, because I know about anybody else. But I think it's really important to that aspect, you know, to definitely seek help. I know I definitely need to. I'm gonna do my thing soon. What else did we talk about? The parenting. Yeah. Make sure that, you know, if you can, gain that invisible bridge of trust, and also do not be afraid, if needed be, to to detach to a certain extent if there isn't a level of understanding there that you feel like can get to that point. Did I articulate that right? No? Fantastic, thank you. So I just want to thank Fiore, Tobias and Comfort. Should we do stand up? You guys want to do the sit down? This is when you sit down and stand up. Nah, man, too serious for that shit.
Sense.
Love, take it easy. That's